Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me officially but warmly welcome at the conference Profile of the Employee 4.0, which is realized as one of the results of the project Modern Technologies in Our School, founded by European Economic Area Grants. Let me welcome our leader of the project, Chairman of the Board, Partnership for Development Fund Foundation, Mr. Adam Kamiński. Our host, Technical University of Białystok, represented by Professor Dorota Mozecka. And representatives of our project partners, GeoCamp Iceland, represented by General Director Arnbjörn Olafsson and Project Manager Magdalena Maria Pośrednik. Our next guests are PhD Tryggvi Tajer from University of Iceland, and Mrs. Sorry for my Icelandic, Bjarndís Jónsdóttir from Mixtuva Institute cooperating in University of Iceland. They will talk about intellectual output of the project. The goal of the project is extending educational offer for vocational education at the level of primary, secondary, and higher education. And our first speaker will be Chairman of the Board, Mr. Adam Kamiński, who will give you a welcoming speech.
Well, thank you, Marta. Thank all of you that you are here, and especially also welcome the students of our technical school, Infotech. Hello, guys, girls, and teachers. This conference is dedicated to summarize one of the agenda of our common project, the information about the new ways, new skills, new knowledge, which will be important for people in IT companies, in IT business. I mean, now we are, we are looking for the future, and probably things which we prepared, I mean, the report which will be shown by the next lecturer, Paweł Tadejko, it should be I don't know how to see again, because things which were published there after the ChatGPT started, we have to find if they will be important in the future. So probably next time, I mean, next conference will be in April. We will change some of the parts of this report. We will see how the ChatGPT will impact on IT business, on skills for the junior developers, for example, which you could be in the future. Then we have to be very, very focused on profit of the employer 4.0. Anyway, a few slides about our school, because it's good time to show something about the technical. It's a short presentation. I will focus on 7 slides. Probably it will be discussed that the technology changed the world. It's not the truth. Technology opens the possibilities. The people will change the world. The people making the future, but people with good skills, with good technology. Who will be these people? Yeah. We are a vocational school. We are looking for highly motivated young people to our school, which want to be coders, programmers, They want to be with technology as in 100% connected. But we not only educate, we focus on anything which are important during your education. We also build you. We have a very strong focus on relations, on soft skills also. Technology provides answers. Human questions do not disappear, especially those which concern education. We answer these questions in our school. There are many players in our ecosystem. The most important are, of course, teachers. They are on the right side, but in my opinion, they are most important because they making the progress, making impact on you as young students. Parents, which are our clients, and they are looking for good service, educational service. So we want them to be happy, to be satisfied, yeah. And of course the IT business, because our school came from the IT business. We have very strong connections with people, with coders, with CEOs from companies. And that's why relationships are important, because they are making movement in new IT companies. People from IT telling that not people winning the projects, not people, not you, not one of you, not the stars making the movement, but the teams, right? And teams are most important, and we will give you a chance to, for example, start cooperating. We have this, as I said before, program SoftTech for the soft skills. As I said before, it's school founded by business and for business. Okay, I have 48 slides.
You said 7.
Yeah, but I don't remember which one are the last one. I think I can speak in English more or less better or worse, yeah. But it's now the Friday. We already started the weekend, so I will shorten my speech. Thank you for my guest from the Iceland that you came here. I think that you will say something interesting, which I heard in Iceland. Yeah, that will be very interesting opinion, point of view from the country, which is as big as Białystok. But I was very impressed how you make the system of education. Yeah, I'm really impressed about your courage, yeah, making innovation in education. Yeah. And that is important for us. Us. It's also companies, IT, because we don't know what will be important, which skills, what kind of knowledge in the future. But we are sure that I'm talking to you, students, but you should be ready to learn every time after the school. Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm really stressed that I was first. And thank you, Marta. And that's it from me.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. And now I'm giving the stage to Professor Dorota Mozerska, who will be talking about a new core curriculum for the new profile at Politechniką Białostocką, Technical University.
Thank you very much. So you're Białystok University of Technology. I need to just change the name in English, Białystok University of Technology. So first of all, thank you for inviting us to be a partner of the project. This is really important for us because we are serving future students. So we need to have a connection with education for secondary schools, and this is really important to fill this education in secondary schools, at least in vocational schools mostly. And we even did some next step because we changed, the formula for our entrance to the university, and we changed to have points for those students from vocational schools who did some exams in programming. So this is good because it's going to be next October. So in this reputation in July, so they will have more points after the exam in computer science, special exams about that, because we also look for points after matriculation at math and extended math, English or other languages, it's like that. And maybe I'm not the first person who should say something about the program of this first cycle engineering studies, because the most important person in this is our vice dean about student affairs. But all these people now are working again at that moment because we are preparing also new curricula for our studies, not only for those after vocational schools that we prepared here, but also for more general subjects. And they are working over this new curricula like miners inside, looking what's to change again and again to be prepared before next rotation and start the new programs in October. A new one, that one we will not run yet in October, I guess, but we'll try to do most. About project and name without, we know that. So we try to prepare a pilot program for first cycle engineering studies in the field. We called it software development with a practical profile. So we prepared this as the team at Białystok University of Technology, this program of study to the education content of IT school classes, including programming, technical school or vocational school. This preferred study program will take into account the professional competencies of graduates of school industry classes, and we based our program on these questionnaires that were prepared, and will be talked later about Dr. Tadejko, but also on EU competencies as well. So about us, we are, as Białystok University of Technology, established in 1949. However, as the Faculty of Computer Science here, in this aula, we are the Faculty of Computer Science. We were established in 1989. And you know, yesterday evening, I tried to find some information about our faculty in the internet. And what I found, I just by accident, I found the paper, and in this paper, some author mentioned that the first university in Poland that ran just the Faculty of Computer Science dedicated only to teaching computer science is located in Białystok. So this paper is about us. No other in Poland, those days, in old days, yes, were they ran computer science courses, but without any separate faculty. So we were first in Poland running first the Institute of Computer Science in this 1989, and then we extend to the Faculty of Computer Science. It was really nice yesterday evening to find this, and yeah, wow, I was really surprised that we were first. However, we are proud that we are saying that on the right of Vistula River, we are the one in northeast part of Poland that we have education on all three levels, bachelor's, master, and PhD in computer science, and even more. We are able also to give the position for habilitation in computer science as well. And we still have all this law with us. Our faculty, we propose 3 courses of studies in computer science, applied mathematics, and computer science and econometry. And we have at that moment almost 1,000 of students, even more, because we have a lot of students in after diploma studies as well, a lot of them. And having not so many teachers, comparing other faculties, we became one of the biggest faculty at the university with these 1,000 students. About the team which prepared or worked over the new program. So as I mentioned, there were Andrzej Chmielewski, this Vice Dean for Students Affairs and Education, Professor Ireneusz Mrozek, Vice Dean for Development and Cooperation, Dr. Cezary Wołdak, lecturer at the Faculty of Computer Science, Dr. Eugenia Wózłowska, so he's with us, so welcome, lecturer at the Faculty of Computer Science, and Dr. Marek Tabensky, also lecturer at the Faculty of Computer Science. So most of team members participated in the development process of the current study program of computer science course at the faculty of us. And this is the most important thing. So this is the idea hidden in the new program. This is some overlapping that is discovered between curricula in programming vocational schools and our courses proposed here at the Faculty of Computer Science, that there are some parts of materials of programming teaching that they already students are learning at school, and this is like a replication again at our first year, so we should change it and try to shift our program up, so at a higher level in programming. So this is mainly this, to think about that, but also to do that our studies are, we are saying, practical one, so they have more contacts, students have more contacts with IT companies already during their studies. However, we need to take care about all, I would say, boundary problems, boundary conditions, because we need to care about all Polish regulation, Polish qualification framework, also some matriculation exam requirements in computer science, and programming technical schools professional exam requirements, and all this regulation of the Ministry of Science and Higher Education in Poland. So preparing all this program, we need to take into account all this regulation. Some basic information, it means that our study course, the new one prepared, has called software development. This is a bachelor degree, engineering Polish, profile practical with 7 semesters. This is first cycle program. Field and discipline of science. Now we have engineering and technology, information and communication technology here in Poland. And this is for obtaining 210 ECTS points. And what is the most important thing, I guess, this is achieve targeted learning outcomes consistent with the learning outcomes in a given area and relevant to regulation of the Ministry of Science and Higher Education. This is also important for us. And we take other recommendations into account. We take into account also report and analysis of the IT job market in Podlaskie Voivodeship. And what we wrote in graduate profile, because in this document, what is needed beside curricula of all courses and knowledge effects, we need to write some profile. So this is with 3 dots. So this is not all, but what we can stress that Graduate person should know the widely used software development methodologies, latest methodologies, programs fluently in at least several modern high-level languages, etc. I guess I will not read maybe all of them. This is, I don't know, it's usually hidden as nobody knows about that there is such things exist like learning outcomes, and those learning outcomes, they're divided into knowledge, skills, and social skills. So about knowledge, this is formulated like in Polish knows many things like that. So we need to formulate all this as a new outputs, curricular outputs, and they're the same as I mentioned about outcomes about skills. There are special numbers that we need to use. What our graduate is able to do. So it's able that there was the first knowledge, was notes, and usually they were these outcomes, they're connected with lectures, and skills are connected with tutorials and laboratories. The continuation about more skills, and we took into account also European competence framework. Just there, the examples, they're divided in a few parts and covered by B1, B2, B3, etc. I don't know if we need to all these, but what I would like to show mostly, because there are examples of competence, European competence framework, etc. But this is interesting thing, but maybe you don't see well, but we prepared something like a coverage matrix for European competence framework between our courses in this software development course. They're written in Polish, sorry, because this is from our system special one. And with these e-competencies and what we use in our course inside. So this is a plus, it's degree. So we are calling this coverage matrix about competencies. Maybe this is like the most important or well-known effect, because there is a study program. Study program divided on semesters. This is translation into English, but it's prepared in Polish. And with ECTS points, and how many numbers in ECTS, but also hours in lectures and tutorials or laboratories. So we can observe what it is at the first semester, the second, the third, up to the seventh. This is just, this is not example. This is like a final study program for a course of study called software development. Of course, in the beginning, we cannot avoid some things like in mathematics, like linear algebra and analytic geometry, or logic for computer science. This is, we call this, usually we have this basic of programming. Now we call this course programming languages and paradigms. And the other, what we have more software engineering, database system, algorithm, data structure, computer organization, and so on. This is the third semester. And we continue to the seventh one. We can just print on something, this study program in full. But this is about what is graduate to be prepared to be professional as a software engineer, mobile device developer, or web application developer, database developer, front-end developer, back-end developer, full-stack developer, software tester. So there are really nice in future some jobs position like that. So about our progress in this task. So we prepared the graduate profile, learning outcomes, and study program. And now there are these curriculums. It means that all these courses are now written inside there is curricula. So we are at the moment working on this. So this is not done fully in 100%, but having a study program, all this net of our courses, this is almost done, but now all these teachers, authors need to put all things inside courses, what they're going to teach. So, thank you for your attention.
Story about some comments. You need to have a full study program, then we can print later on if you like to see all semesters, because I show only the first 3, but we are in full programs.
Thank you, madam. And now I'm giving the stage to Mrs. Magdalena Maria Pośrednik, representative of our partner, GeoCamp.
Thank you. I'm not used to this kind of microphone, but I'll try my best. Thank you for the invitation. Hello, everyone. My name is Magdalena Maria Pośrednik, and I'm representing GeoCamp Iceland. The topic I would like to talk about is educational aspiration, opportunities, and challenges for Polish community in Iceland. As I am representing one of them, I'm an immigrant living 16 years in Iceland, so I had this pleasure to actually experience both Polish and Icelandic higher system, education system. And I feel like a group of Polish community, it's still somehow forgotten or maybe underestimated when it comes to actual offer in Iceland. And I would like to explain a little bit maybe why that's happening. I'm going to talk a little bit about the characteristics of the Polish community in Iceland, a few numbers when it comes to the population, and then I would like to present results of the survey I conducted in 2021, which is a survey on educational services for English and Polish-speaking inhabitants living in Iceland. When it comes to numbers of immigrants in Iceland in 2020 was around 55,354. The numbers are coming from the 1st January of each year, and that was around 15.2% of the whole population of Iceland. As we can see, the number is growing. In 2021, it was already 57,126 people. When it comes to Polish immigrants in Iceland, slightly dropped in 2021, but still 37% of the whole population of immigrants in Iceland, it's a Polish community. Lithuanian and then the Philippines are the second and the third in the row. When it comes to the characteristics of a Polish community, Polish immigrant expat in Iceland, that's changed over the years. 2006, when the restriction for having work permission, that was we didn't need it anymore, any work permission in Iceland in order to get jobs. Many people moved to Iceland, and the first immigrants were really moving there for economic reasons. Now, over the years, that changed, and right now there's more and more young people with a great education moving to Iceland because that country seems more as a place where they align with the values. And they also very often they just visit their families and they get kind of enough in Icelandic nature, but also in the way of living, which is maybe calmer and far away maybe from the crowd, which is I feel it's better for a family, this life-work balance. Yes, but let me just also have some visualization. How does it look like when it comes to the growing number of immigrants in Iceland? As you can see, this light blue color, it's the number of first and second generation of immigrants growing. And here a little bit about the survey. The idea to conduct the survey was mostly because 2021 we see how COVID affected Iceland, as Iceland is mostly dependent right now on tourism. And we saw that there's a huge spike when it comes to the unemployment number of people among foreign people of foreign origin in Iceland. Around 24% of unemployed people were foreign origins in March 2021, while in 2020 it was around 11%. So we start thinking maybe people would like to change their careers. What opportunities do they have to actually change those careers and maybe find some new direction for their career? And surprisingly, no one asked this question before to the immigrants. Would you like to take part in education? Like, what would you like to learn? Is this anything that we could provide to you when it comes to the educational services? When it comes to so we came up with the survey. The survey was spread online. It was survey around 14 questions. It was available in English and Polish. The information about the research was disseminated to our partners. All the channels, online channels were used as well. Also the Labor Office and our partners, like for example, Association of Polish Community Project Polska. So yeah, we try to get to the many people as possible. In total, we got 170 people took part in the survey. 119 was for the English version and 51 for the Polish version. Most of the people were in age 26-45, and most people that took part in the survey lived in capital and South Iceland, with either full-time job and also the high number of unemployed people. When it comes to education, I'm going to actually show you. As you can see, for a Polish version, it was mostly people that graduated from primary school, but also technical school and high school with the matriculum exam. For English, also the highest numbers are for the same kind of education. And some results of the question that we asked. And the most important question was like, would you be interested overall in continuing your education in Iceland? As you can see, the majority said yes. Which was great news because we were hoping to actually create some kind of new offers for them. Now, how would you like to learn? And that was mostly, this question was mostly impacted by COVID, as we all moved to remote and hybrid jobs. So as we can see, hybrid jobs would be, hybrid type of learning would be the most preferable by the participants. In green. Not so many in was it? Yeah, a little bit less in online, especially for the Polish version of the survey. Now here we have the results for Polish-speaking participants, which is what topics would you like to be interested in when it comes to learning. And we see, of course, Icelandic language, as this is kind of basic, but also it's covered by all kind of centers already. So there's many possibilities to actually learn Icelandic language, and there are subsidized also by the government. So there is definitely places you could do that. But surprisingly, there was also vocational education, which is very on-hands jobs and very on board, like tourism and hospitality makes sense as well because there's a huge, tourism is is a growing sector. The main sector right now in the Icelandic economy. We do have also 23% in IT, as you can see, and in media, all kind of graphic design and social media management. And then we start analyzing whether there's any how does it look like when it comes to the employment status. Is there any pattern and your preferred faculties? And those are the numbers for Polish speaking version of the survey. Again, Icelandic language makes sense, and tourist hospitality. Again, that's the main sector. But then the third is the IT. And that could come as well from the idea that you could learn it in the hybrid system. And so we also have to talk about the reasons why people are not undertaking education right now. And the main obstacle was the language barrier. But then the second, for Polish people, it was, I don't find anything of my interest. So there's, again, lack of this educational service, that will cover the interest of people that would like to go to and get some more education. Also, when it comes to organization of the classes are usually taught during the day. So again, the hybrid mode of learning would be preferable. And that again makes sense. We can see it in our results. And now let's talk a little bit. I want to mention about limitations of the survey. I know that the survey was also taken by Polish people, but in English version. And so and also the survey was conducted when there was 24% of unemployment rate among inhabitants of the foreign origin. So it would be very important to conduct the survey again, and definitely with the focus of for Polish people living in Iceland, as this is the largest community. And we could definitely, I hope, in the cooperation with our partners, think about it in the nearest future, and based on the next results, prepare some very interesting program focused on the Polish community in Iceland, and give them more chances of an opportunity to work in Iceland as well. And of course, I put some resources. You would like to see more of the results of the survey and some more statistics from the Statistics Iceland. So that's everything from me. If you have any questions. Okay.
The report, is it in English?
Yes, the report is in English, so you're very welcome to read it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And now let's welcome our next guest from Iceland, Taye from the University of Iceland.
And thank you for having me here, and thank you for showing up to listen to all of these interesting presentations that we've had. So just to begin with, I always like to at least give people an idea of why you're here listening to me. I work at the School of Education in the University of Iceland, where I've worked within a unit that we have just established, which is called the Educational Innovation Hub. And it aligns with the research that I've been doing for many years now, which focuses on education futures, what we can expect or what we would like education to look like next decade, 2 decades or more, and then also in innovation. And innovation both in terms of innovating within the work that we do in schools, and also innovation as an outcome of the education that we deliver. Okay? And then more recently, I've been sort of delving into entrepreneurial learning, and that sort of all ties into that. So that's why you're here listening to me today. I hope that I can make the case that I know something about what I'm talking about. Now, when I was preparing this talk, one of the things that I've been working on recently, and this is a study that we're getting ready to launch in Iceland, is to look at what sort of innovation actually occurs within schools in Iceland. And our sort of, I'm not going to call it a hypothesis, because I wouldn't say that in the scientific sense as a hypothesis, but I have a hunch. And it's related to what we've seen in Iceland in terms of teachers' adoption of information technologies that they use in their teaching and how they use them in the teaching. We found that the teachers who are more likely to be sort of innovative in the way they adopt technologies in their own work, right? That they're using technologies to develop their teaching materials, etc., that they're more likely to implement technologies for their students in their classroom. And my hunch is that the same goes for innovation, that teachers who are aware of how they innovate within their classrooms, that they're more likely to try to pull some sort of innovative capacities out of their students. And that's one of the things that we'll be looking at in this study that we'll be conducting this spring. And I know the next conference is in April, but we're not expected to have outcomes then, but we'll have to show up for another project. So, what I'm going to talk about here today is, so first I'm going, like I say, I want you to listen to me in terms of these two things that I mentioned before, that when I'm talking about innovation, I'm talking both about the innovation that teachers do within their own work, and that would include adopting new technologies, developing their own new teaching strategies and resources, etc., but also how we try to address the needs of our students in terms of building their capacity to be innovators, right? So I call it my two-pronged approach. It's innovative students, innovative teachers, this goes together. Then I'm going to, one of the things that I think we need to start with, because I know you're all hearing me say innovation, 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 and I have no way of knowing whether you are hearing the same as what I'm hearing when I say innovation. So I think we have to define innovation very clearly about what we mean when we talk about innovation, and then I'm going to sort of focus on what we call user innovation. This is very much related to a specific researcher, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. And then I'm going to talk about how we foster innovation cultures to try to promote innovation. So, first, often when we talk about innovation, that people think of it as, oh, innovation it's that aha moment. It's the light bulbs going off. All of a sudden we're like, ooh, eureka, I found something new. That's what a lot of people tend to think that innovation looks like. And the reality is that it usually looks a little bit more like this. And this is actually a man named Michael S. Hart. He was the originator of the project Gutenberg, which was the first ebook project on the internet. And this is his workspace. This is a very typical, I think, innovative or innovators workspace. That our sort of the way we talk about innovation doesn't always align well enough with what actually happens when people are trying to get innovative, okay? Now this guy, Nick Skillicorn, he was quite interesting that he wanted to know how people define innovation. So he went out and he asked a bunch of innovators and entrepreneurs, define innovation for me. And the sort of basic definition that he came up with was this one, that executing an idea which addresses a specific challenge and achieves value for both the company and the customer. Now, that's great. That's a good definition of innovation, but it doesn't align with the types of innovation that we generally see in education. It's not a really good description because generally in education, even if we're a private educator or something like that, that the notion of a company and a customer and the relationship between them doesn't apply to educational settings. Certainly not in the way that it would apply in a commercial sector. So we need a different definition of innovation for education. And there enters this guy, Eric von Hippel. And he introduced the concept of user innovations. And several decades ago, he started researching this and he started looking at, well, when people are innovating or innovations that are brought to market, where do these come from? How did they originate? And he found that depending on what area you were looking at, that anywhere from 30% to 100% of innovations started as user innovations. And by that, he means individuals innovating for themselves and only for themselves. They are the only beneficiary of that innovation. And that's what he calls user innovation. And that's the type of innovation that we see within education in Iceland. When we're looking at what teachers do, they are user innovators. They're developing new strategies, new teaching resources. They're implementing new technologies within their sort of own professional environment, what we usually call a classroom, where they basically are the only beneficiaries, right? And that's wonderful, that's wonderful. But the problem maybe is that this type of innovation is not recognized by others and not necessarily even recognized by the innovators themselves. They're not really made aware that they are innovative. And if my hypothesis, that's not a hypothesis about my hunch about teachers who innovate being more likely to address their students' needs for innovation capacity, if that's correct, then teachers need to know about their own innovative activities, right? They need to be aware of the user innovations that they are working on. So these are some of the challenges that we find when we're dealing with user innovations. Not recognized as innovations. They're not recognized as innovations by the innovator and not recognized as innovations by others. That it's just, this is what teachers do. They make lesson plans. That the innovations are highly individualized. And this is one of the key issues with user innovations, that it might be useful for others, but not without some adaptation, because it's so highly individualized to the innovator's context. And one of the big problems is, especially when we're looking at education, is having the opportunities to share innovations. And teachers don't always have those opportunities. They work often very individually. And like I say, this is what they do, and no one's going out and asking, well, what did you innovate today? Can you share that with me? So the innovation process ends up being very opaque. We don't see really what it is that the innovator is doing, what prompted the innovation, and how the innovator actually uses the product of the innovation process. Now, often there are people who would challenge the notion of a user innovation, that this wouldn't actually qualify as an innovation because it's so individualized to the innovator. That an innovation doesn't actually become an innovation until it becomes available to someone other than the innovator and becomes useful to someone other than the innovator. And so, that certainly does apply, I think, but I'm not ready to throw out the user innovation concept because of that. I think it's still a helpful and useful concept, but innovations are made to be shared. And this is just really, it's an important component of us understanding our own innovations and being able to bring other people into understanding of what we have innovated, why we innovated, and all of that sort of stuff. So one of the things that, especially if we're dealing with a field where there is a lot of user innovation, if we want to support those innovators, we need to create opportunities for them to share their innovations outside of their specific work context. So many moons ago, 1999 to be specific, which is eons in internet years, I'm told. This guy, Eric S. Raymond, wrote a report that he put onto the internet that raised a lot of attention, and it's really well known today, especially in software developer circles. And it was simply named The Cathedral and the Bazaar. And his claim was that in software development at that time, that there were two ways of treating source code, so the blueprints of the software that people are developing. One is you keep it to yourself and don't let anyone know what you're doing until you actually release the software. The other way is just to put everything onto the internet and let anyone look at what you're doing and to actually take from what you're doing and borrow it, build on it. And so the cathedral model, that's that closed model, right? And the bazaar model, that's the open model. And what has been found is that in terms of quality and security in software, it's much better guaranteed by the bazaar model, right? If anyone can look at your software, your source code, while you're developing the software, then a lot more people are going to point out where you have problems, right? And this is just the basis of what we call open source software today. That it's kept open because, if I remember correctly, I don't remember quite the exact quote, but Eric Raymond said something along the lines of more eyes find more bugs or something like that, that more people can actually look at your code, the more can point out the problems. And this is relevant for user innovation as well, because here we sort of see the same types of challenges. Your user innovation, you want to be able to expand on it, you want to be able to, for other people to be able to apply your innovations, then you have to bring them out into the open. You have to make them visible. And like I say, the problem with user innovations is that opaqueness of the process. Now I'm going to diverge here a little bit just to make a point. Now, sometime in the mid-90s, I attended a lecture by a very well-known art critic and philosopher, Arthur Danto. And he pointed out what I'm going to describe here, and I found this absolutely earth-shattering in what it reveals. But this is really interesting. So here we have a very well-known photograph taken by Cartier-Bresson. And I think it's probably, the photograph is probably familiar to almost everyone in this room. And what's interesting about the photo, supposedly, is that there's this tension in the photo, because you have this guy, he's just dangling here. And it sort of prompts you to think and ask, what's going to happen next? And we assume that the next thing that's going to happen is that this foot is going to go ankle deep into that puddle, right? But the truth is that we don't know that. We have no idea what's going to happen next. And it could just as well be that our little guy here is jumping backwards. And the next thing that's going to happen is that this foot is going to end up on that ladder. He might be dangling by a wire, just sort of hanging above this whole scene. We don't actually know, because all we have is this frozen instant in time and no temporal context. There's nothing before it, there's nothing after it. In the mid-60s, Andy Warhol made a movie. He made several movies, but this one was attracted a lot of attention. What he basically did was he went into the Rockefeller Center in New York City, found an empty office, set up a camera, pointed it at the Empire State Building, and filmed for the next something like 6 hours. And because it wasn't long enough, he slowed it down a little bit to make the film 8 hours long. And that's all that film is the Empire State Building. We see the sun go up and down, we see some lights flicker. There are 3 moments in the film where someone turns on the light that Andy Warhol and his crew were in, and you see their reflection in the window. But otherwise, nothing happens. But the thing is that we know that nothing happens because we see the process, we see the context. Here, we don't know what happens. In an 8-hour-long movie, we know what happens. Nothing happens. And so my point is that it's the process, it's that temporal timeline that things occur along that matters. And the same goes for innovations. If we want to understand what innovations are for and how they apply to us, we need to have some sense of why they were initiated, how they were developed, and what came out of them. Just seeing the innovation isn't likely to make a big dent in the way we do things. Okay. So, to sum up in sort of this part, that what I've been talking about, so innovation in education, and especially the innovation that applies to teaching, that most of it, I suspect, is user innovation. That certainly we have examples of people adopting teaching strategies or using learning resources, teaching resources that they buy from somewhere. But a lot of what happens is just the teacher making their own stuff to make their teaching better, to make their teaching fit better the context that they're developing in. And if we want to understand how that innovation works, then the innovative process is what's important to us. It's not so important to see what the outcome was, but how it was developed, what gave rise to it. And finally, that educators are not necessarily aware of all of this innovation that they are partaking in. And there are, in some cases, they are directly told that what they do is not innovation. Our finance minister in Iceland once actually said this. He said, no, innovation doesn't happen in schools. No, innovation happens. That's what entrepreneurs do. That doesn't happen in schools. So we need to both sort of change the way that we think about innovation to try to make the innovation processes more transparent and to start recognizing different forms of innovation. And if we want to make our educational institutions and organizations more innovative, this is important, but it's equally as important, I think, if we want to be able to use our educational organizations to develop the innovative capacities of our learners. So, one of the things that we have done in Iceland that I want to call it an example of creating a bazaar for user innovations in education. This is called EduCamps. And this is a concept that originated in, was it Chile?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chile in the 1990s. And essentially the idea is, with an EduCamp, is that you create a space where people can share their own experiences, share their own knowledge very openly and in a very informal environment. And this is essentially, the EduCamps have been sort of grouped with what have come to be called unconferences. Is anyone familiar with that term, unconference? People started to think that conferences, they were getting too stuffy, too highfalutin. And so if people were going to actually be able to use these opportunities to share the knowledge that was important to them, they started to sort of organizing these side events to conferences that they called unconferences, where they basically did the same type of stuff that conferences were intended to do, but in a much more informal environment. And in an EduCamp, that sort of some of the essential components is that there's no one like me that stands up here with a microphone and addresses the crowd. The presenters at an EduCamp are the practitioners. So in an EduCamp, the people who are presenting are the teachers themselves, okay? And it's a peer-to-peer learning process. So that basically what we do is we find a big empty room, we set up some tables, and we say, okay, the person who wants to share can have this station, and then another person who wants to share can have that station, and then everyone else that attends the EduCamp, they can just go from table to table and learn about whatever it is that that a person is sharing there. And this is a really good way to build community. So we've been doing this in Iceland. This actually started with it was a group of students at the School of Education who did sort of the first EduCamps in around 2010, 2011? Yeah. And this has taken off, and now today there are regularly held EduCamps all around Iceland, and they are sort of organized on a local basis. So there are groups of teachers in each part of Iceland that will say, oh, well, let's have an EduCamp. And so they set it up and get it working. So now everyone's familiar with the phrase, keep it simple, stupid, but I didn't want to call you stupid. So I just put lines in it, but I need to have the S to justify the kiss. That this is really the most important thing with EduCamps. If you want to have successful EduCamps, keep it as simple as possible. And this is the whole idea with the unconference theme is it's not supposed to take a lot of planning. And even if we were to, what did you Google EduCamps? What was the guy's name who started, who first started them?
I can't
remember. But the guy who did the first EduCamps in Chile, he was I'll call him a purist, because he basically said, do not organize at all. Just get people into a room and say, now we're going to organize. We're going to take the next 10 minutes and we're going to organize our unconference, and everyone's going to learn something. We're a little nervous about that kind of approach, but it's still, as I say, it's important that it's not complex. And essentially, what we've done with the EduCamps that we've organized at the School of Education, and which Gatis has been sort of the primary organizer for many of them. So if anyone has questions about this afterwards, talk to Gatis. That we'll send out an advertisement. And we'll say, anyone who wants to share, just sign up and let us know. And then we gather everyone in a big room and make these stations. And the thing is that once we actually start the EduCamp, then we're still encouraging people to sign up to share, right? People can just show up during the day and say, hey, I just thought of something, I want to share this. And the really important thing is that this is a space where people can move freely, and people should always be moving freely. You're not supposed to sit there and just listen to this one person. You're supposed to ask them a question, then go to the next station and learn something new. But I mean, sort of, this is just summing up the basics of what you do to organize an EduCamp. you can Google this and you'll find all sorts of versions of this, but this is the one that we've used. So what is it that an attendee at an EduCamp does? Essentially what I said, just move around, ask questions, be curious, but this defines how we go about setting these up. And people should always be asking questions, because there's this station, there's this person, they tried something and they have some intimate knowledge about it. And you can go and you can ask them, okay, if I'm going to do this in my own classroom, what do I need to be aware of, right? That's really valuable knowledge. And and like I say, it's important that people use this to build up their context, because it's the purpose of this. One of the primary purposes is to facilitate networking, to build a community. And so people need to be able to follow up and keep in touch and take notes. Now, these EduCamps that first and foremost for us, and I think that it's sort of the origin of the concept, that this is thought of as professional development for teachers. Okay? So this is basically teachers who are already working as teachers, an opportunity for them to learn some more stuff and this sort of thing. But one of the things that we've done in the School of Education is that we have also encouraged our students, whether they're in teacher training programs or not, to attend these types of EduCamps, because it's an important way for them to get a sense of what schools actually look like and what actually happens in schools. And then we've also, there are also examples where our students have organized, and as I said, there was actually a group of students that started organizing EduCamps in Iceland. But to sort of just tie up whatever loose ends I'm leaving here, which there are probably more of them, but I think that's kind of the point of a talk like this, is to create loose ends, right? I always like to say, we researchers, people think we're supposed to answer questions. No, we're supposed to come up with questions. That's our key duty. But essentially, the reason why I've chosen to put EduCamps in this context and everything else is that it is an example of the types of things that we can do to promote innovation in general and to bring innovations into public spaces where we can look at them, develop them further, and use them as encouragement for people to do cool stuff. Because at the end of the day, this is just all about doing cool stuff, doing stuff that works better. And whatever we can come up with to aid us in that, whether it's developing our understanding of what innovation is, what innovations are, or developing ways that allow us to better share our innovation, our experiences, that's all going to help. That's all going to help. And I think that if we are really going to be serious about making innovation and innovative capacity an outcome of education, then education has to start looking more like EduCamps, right? That sort of has to become a component of it, that dialogue, that sharing, that openness, that's really one of the keys to creating opportunities and spaces for innovation in education. So, should have shown that one before. So after you've done your first EduCamp, what do you do next? You just go and do it again. And then you do it again, and you do it again. There's no time span on this, and you can do it as often as you like. You get better at doing it, and you start finding that a lot more people are going to be willing to come forth and share their stuff. The last EduCamp that I organized myself was several years ago, but we ended up calling it a mega EduCamp. It was huge. I think we had something like at least 60 or 70 people who were sharing experiences. We had to take over a full floor in one end of the building of the School of Education. All right, so I'm open for any questions, comments. If you want to tell me I'm wrong, then that's fine.
Answer questions that you came up with questions.
Well, you know, good point. I can't guarantee that I won't answer your question without a question.
So, can I ask, I mean, with innovation, obviously it's also a matter of the right place and the right time and the right context and the right circumstances, because an innovation, the same innovative thing in a setting might not be innovation, but in another setting, it might be revolutionary. It's like the wheel you showed, because I just love, you know, when people say, we're not reinventing the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you should constantly reinvent the wheel, otherwise you wouldn't. I remember luggages having no wheels back in the 80s. And then somebody said, oh, let's put wheels underneath the luggage.
Yeah.
It's easier to carry them around. And you're constantly reinventing the wheel in different places.
But I think you make a really good point, because, you know, and I tried to make that point that context is everything. And context is just really important to understanding the innovation, for the precise reasons that you mentioned. That, you know, what can be innovative in one context isn't necessarily innovative in another. But you don't know that unless you make the innovation visible. And I think that that's actually sort of with many teachers, that the sense that we've gotten is that they often consider their innovations just to be daily routine, right? It's just what teachers do, and every teacher does it. There's nothing special about me. But then when you actually get them to say, well, I did it this way, then you do realize, no, they're not all the same. That each context is different. But it's important, you have to make that context visible, right? You have to make that innovation visible. So how are you going to do that? See, I ended on a question.
I don't know, what do you think?
We could go on like this.
Well, you'll see.
So if, I'll be around if you want to, if anyone wants to ask questions, but otherwise, thanks.
And now our next guest, PhD Paweł Tadejko, who will be talking about trends and labor market of IT industry.
Thank you for having me. My name is Paweł Tadejko. I am representing the computer science faculty of at this university, Białostocką University of Technology, and I want to talk about labor market and some trends, and I want to show some numbers of the reports which we prepare in this project. The numbers goes later, but because at the beginning I want to talk about the labor market and some challenges of the ICT or IT software companies. The fonts are not the same as in my presentation. Of course, we know that the challenges of IT market and IT industry have been known for many years, not only because of the industry 4.0 or 5.0, but because many companies, IT companies, who wants to build the software and system. When we talk about the digital transformation or industry 4.0, wants to hire new specialists, and they want hire people with new skills. For example, like this. programming, software architecture, IoT design, data storage, data analytics, and so on. Maybe some of us can say that we are the beginning of the revolution because the artificial intelligence and some digital and innovative systems can build some software or can help us to develop solutions. But statistics shows that the labor market changing to worse and shortages of the specialists will rise in the next probably in the next years, or maybe even in decades, 10 years and more. This is some of the statistics that shows that the shortages of the software developers, for example, grow by year about 20%. And even the last years can't change these trends. If you think that the artificial intelligence or GPT take your job, I want to say that it's something rather like that than the developers should afraid about their job, because providing and run the IT projects not only based on the generating or coding, but also connected to the, for example, project management, business analysis, and some other fields of the skills. Even if we talk about the digital skills about the citizens, they show statistics shows that we get the shortages of the digital literacy. It's something like light skills of the analyzing the data or something related. Not only data analysis and software developer in IT companies, but also in other companies, for example, administration and business and in wide range. In the other hand, we get the Industry 4.5.0 competencies, and if we look into the difference between the third and fourth revolution, we see that the Industry 4.0 based on the strong base on the big data, IoT, Internet of Things, and artificial intelligence. And this is the reason why I'm not afraid about the labor market, about the work, about for the software developers and other related skills. This slide is should look like the animation, but I don't know what is the presentation device. But the golden single, something like the golden single of the Industry 4.0 shows that we can find some of the components of specialization. For example, big data, cloud computing, cybersecurity, Internet of Things, and other related to Industry 4.0. And most of them, of course, is based on the IT skills. I don't want to go deeper, because big data, for example, big data search it's connected to the next skills and next specialization. For example, security or real-time data analysis, or data verification, and so on. And there are the next skills and next specialization if we talk about the IT labor market. The other side, there are Digital Europe Strategy and related law, Data Act and Artificial Intelligence Act, and probably we see that there are some phrases that mentioned on this picture that show that these areas of this digital strategy is also connected to the IT tools, skills, and software development. Even if we talk about not only the IT market and the IT companies, but also, for example, if we talk about the justice systems, safety, employment, education, access, medical systems, and so on. If we talk about the market and the specialization, there are many very strong specialization in, for example, in Internet of Things. And on the first I can design the many pictures of like that with some other areas of the specialization. But if we look at this cover of the books, we can find that probably most of the areas of our life is connected to the Internet of Things, not only storing and analyzing the data, but also, for example, medical and other areas of our life. Of course, maybe this is not present. Is not the time that we should afraid about the devices and security. But I think it's in some areas this situation is look like that, and it's strange. For example, if we talk about the autonomous cars, and when for example, when the car decided to drive in special way, or if the car or software decided to pay bills or security, for example, it's a kind of strange thing, I think. In this situation, it's like the other fields of IT. There are many areas of application of Internet of Things, and for example, when we talk about the smart cities, we see that, for example, security is very important, and of course, this fact generates many other skills and specialization, for example, in security in IoT. Okay, let's talk about let's talk about some surveys. We design and provide a survey in this project. The methodology it's very simple. We try to ask about some question 100 companies, IT, software development companies, mostly from Podlaskie and Mazowieckie województwo. If we look into the size of the company, even big companies take place in this research. I show only some of the results, only part of the results of this survey. For example, areas of competence required by IT companies. If we look into the some of the specialization or skills, we see that many of them are connected to the subject of Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0. For example, artificial intelligence, cloud computing, big data, Internet of Things, but also there are some others. For example, game development or even telecommunication network. If we talk about the competence of required by those companies, if we talk in the other side, if we talk about the some specialization, because this is areas and this is the specialization when we talk about the staff in the role of the team or staff competences. We show some similar results because most of them are connected to artificial intelligence, for example, big data, database, or other connected to the Industry 4.0. We try to connect some of the specialization to essential skills, and we try to grow by similar properties. And as you see, most of them, it's like the name of the technologies in Industry 4.0. And if we look into the, for example, look into the offer of the universities, it's some of this name many times shows that that this is exactly the name, or for example, of the specialization on of the universities. Of course, university is not the one way to build the competence, and what the other paths. I think it's a few paths to build the competences. Not only new fields of study at universities, but also micro credentials, some kinds of competences and skills related to the Digital Europe strategy, paths of specialization at the high school level, or even citizen development, which built on the RPA, robotic process automation, and low-code specialization. What is the micro credentials? It's something like we can build some skills, even not related to the full degree of the study. but some skills that can be used, for example, in companies on the labor market, and these skills based on the not only for the university, but people can build skills, for example, when they run the projects or complete the project based on the market, and even some technology companies like the Google, Microsoft, or Amazon build a special system for micro credentials when the people can earn a professional credential, of course, in technologies related to this company, for example, Google. If we look into for this path, we can find that, for example, universities probably can build, for example, a new field of study, but this is the requirements for the building of the new field of study. Of course, the university required the financing, for example. If we talk about the high schools, of course, most of the ICT skills it's connected to the technical schools, not the general profile. If we talk about the citizen developers, probably some companies wants to hire the citizen developers because the cost of the citizen developers it's cheaper than the ICT specialist and software developers. But of course, if we want to be a software developers, like kind of citizen developers, we also should achieve some of the competences, some of the skills. For example, business analytics, data modeling, or some others. And it's not so easy to be a system developer, for example, in a week or in a month. Of course, all these paths have pros and cons, and as I say, for example, citizen developers can be some kind of worker, but not the higher specialization, high ICT specialist. For example, in software development. Okay, thank you. This is the reference of these findings and statistics.
The end of the conference, but still we have one point of the agenda. It had to be speech of our director, Karol Przybyszewski. Unfortunately, the director is not able to be with us because of some health reasons. So, guys, just let me present a few slides from his presentation to show you what we have already done in terms of the project, what was our teachers' intellectual output into the project. So, Technologies of the Future in Today's School. Let me remind you that this is the title of our project. In frames of the project, we have already created software development technician curriculum. Also software development technician curriculum for artificial intelligence. Of course, qualifying vocational courses for software development technicians, and Python learning package for Polish minority in Iceland. Here what you see are the subjects designed by us in frames of curriculum for the game development programmer. Raster vector graphics, sound processing and music creation, 3D modeling and animation, C# language, game development in Unity, and some game software design. And now, the profile of AI programmer. The subject we suggest to be performed at school are AI fundamentals, programming for data science, computer vision, natural language processing, statistical data manipulation, and AI ethics and bias reduction. And now the content of qualifying courses. In terms of competence in 03, for the first semester we suggest to teach in the fields of basics of programming, occupational health and safety, introduction to computer science, English in programming, introduction to databases, and other subjects in next semesters, as you can see in this slide. Here, some other subjects in frames of another competence. And another intellectual output, the product of our project, Python learning package for Polish minority in Iceland. In frames of this package, we suggest to introduce such subject as you can see. Introduction to Python, beginning Python basics, Python programming flow, functions and modules, exceptions, handling, file handling, classes in Python, generators and iterators, and data structures collections. And this is all what we have for you from our director, Karol Przybyszewski. Now let me thank you that you came here. I hope you enjoyed. No questions? Not now. Maybe later. Next conference is planned for April. So I hope you come for the conference. Thank you, our guests. Thank you, the partners. Thank you, the host of the conference and the leader of the project. So, see you. Bye-bye.